Hi there, friends. Hope your day is off to a great start. So, before we get into today's topic, I wanted to throw out a few words. No, first, I wanted to ask a couple of questions, and before I ask those questions, I also wanted to throw out a few words to keep in mind when answering these questions. Okay, so the words I want to throw out there are one, peer pressure, two, influence, three, pride, and four, social acceptance. Okay, so here are the questions. Have you ever had a friend or a group of friends where you guys were sort of accustomed to doing things together? Things like maybe going shopping or traveling or even just dining out. Even though you couldn't afford to really do those things, or have you ever been in a situation where you lost or gained a friend as a result of your economic status? All right. So if you answered yes to both of these questions, then you want to keep watching this video, okay? Because today, with me, your go-to personal and business finance coach, of course, I'm going to be exploring the difficulty between achieving your own personal financial goals and being able to maintain relationships with friends, okay? So what happens is sometimes when you set out to establish financial goals or financial objectives, oftentimes you do that because it's based on your own personal reflection, okay, of your income reality. However, the people around us, also play a huge role in defining our financial well-being, whether we know it or not. That's just the way it happens. And oftentimes the people around us are family and then friends, especially. And while we can change bloodline, with friendships, it's more difficult, to sort of hang on to, especially when it's hindering your ability to get financially stable. So, I'm not suggesting that if you find yourself in a difficult financial situation, you suddenly go out and abandon your, friendship. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying go and discard of your friendship. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that sometimes these friends actually make it more difficult for you to be able to establish a stable financial situation for yourself. In other words, there are times when you have to realize that a friendship can become literally too expensive for you. And how do you even begin to identify such a situation? Okay, how do you begin to tell yourself that, oh, this friendship may not be helping me get to, achieving my financial goals? Well, here are some things to look out for. Okay, I mentioned a few words earlier on. I said influence, peer pressure, pride, and social acceptance. Okay, so keep these things in mind again. All right. But how do you begin to identify when a friendship has become too expensive? One is, I think, when you find yourself constantly doing the things that I mentioned earlier in the video, constantly going on trips, constantly, dining out, constantly, shopping, constantly throwing parties. That's all you do as friends. At some point, it takes a toll on your finances. If the only way you can have a good time or socialize with your friends is to continue to do these activities constantly, then that friendship, especially when you come to the realization of your own income level and not being able to sustain it, or you're stretching yourself to, make these things happen with your friends, it's time to maybe make a difficult situation to reassess that friendship. Okay. If maybe when you make your personal decision to go on this personal financial journey, if you feel like your friends are not hearing you out, or your friend is not along for the ride, is not being supportive, or this friend makes fun of the way you've decided to live like a prudent lifestyle or become more frugal, it's time to sort of again take a second look at that friendship situation. Again, if you're constantly having to maybe swipe your credit cards, your debit cards, in order to have a good time with a group of friends or friend, it's time to again reassess that situation. Another thing to look out for is if you feel constantly drained, like by your friend who maybe when you hang out, you are having to sort of be the sponsor all the time. And I'm not talking about a situation where, it's a one-time thing. It's if these things are constantly happening, where you're the sponsor, you have this friend. You may not even necessarily be at the same economic level, but they're never willing to, sort of be the sponsor or show you a good time. It's time to reassess that friendship. And reassessing a friendship in any of these scenarios, as I mentioned, is really getting to talk to your friend or group of friends about how, these activities are not allowing you to, gain the financial stability you need. If you're lucky and it's a true friendship, then, they would also reassess things. But the reality is that a lot of times, you end up losing that friendship, and it's a difficult one to choose between maintaining a lot of times a long-time friendship versus trying to get right your finances and trying to make better decisions for yourself. It's tough, but honestly it's a decision that if one has to make, one would have to go with sort of doing away with that friendship, no matter, because if that person or group of persons cannot come along with you for the ride, then you have to go at it alone. The fact that in economics, there's a theory in economics that is called a relative income hypothesis. Okay, and basically what it says is that people's consumption and spending habits are largely influenced by social factors more so than their actual income level. So in other words, people tend to spend more than they can afford as a way to establish kind of this outward display of a higher social status than what the reality of their income level is. Okay, and when I know it's a long definition, but I guess the simple way to break it down is that I think of it, when I say social factors, I think of peer pressure, like I said, the influence from friends, the pride of not wanting to look like you're less than, and sort of the social acceptance that everybody wants to be accepted socially. So those are some of the things and attributes that I can sort of pick out in order to define this hypothesis, this economic theory, the relative income hypothesis, that is based on these social factors that people so desperately want to be part of something. And so in wanting to be part of that something, they tend to extend or overextend their financial ability. So I say all that to say that, again, if you find yourself in that situation where a friendship becomes too expensive, you may need to make that difficult decision to do away with such a friendship, especially if those friends are not along for the ride. Okay? That's all I wanted to share with you today. Before I end this video, I want to say I've been seeing your comments and your feedback, and I appreciate them. What I'm trying to do with my the way I offer, financial coaching, personal financial planning, is that I look at broad topics, things that people don't necessarily focus on, but things that are really more prevalent and things that really affect us as humans individually that people still find very difficult to explore or talk about. But there are things that are very useful, and people want to know that they're not alone in those specific, unique situations. So I try to maybe, talk about some of those areas, from time to time. Okay, personal finance or being on a personal financial journey is not all about doomsday and being not being able to live or enjoy life. No, that's not what it's about. It's about finding a place that of acceptance, of balance that works for you, and not being able to, and not relying on giving away or giving of yourself so much so that you lose your own sort of emotional and spiritual and mental stability, if you know what I mean. So with that said, again, I just wanted to acknowledge those that have been reaching out to me privately in my DMs and telling me how much they're enjoying the series and how this has really been helping them. So with that said, if you do find this video useful, helpful, please share with your family and friends and colleagues. And until next time, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon again. Ciao.